Hey guys, it's Lady Raven, the Wild Witch, and we are live here today for the first time since I had my surgery. I'm doing it down here. I'm hoping that my dogs, as you can see, there's one, oops, right there. I'm hoping that my dogs will cooperate and not go berserk because the chair I have upstairs, where I normally record it in my altar room, is very uncomfortable considering the procedure I had. I'm back. There will be no live tomorrow because I'm kind of coming back slowly, but we will have one next week. So today we're going to talk about creativity and spell casting. And what does that actually mean and how important is it? You know, it's funny because I've heard a lot of witches, whether they're starting out or whether they are very advanced, say, I don't do well with creativity. I don't have creativity. Creativity is one of the number one ingredients in spell casting. And because creativity generates a tremendous amount of energy. So if you are somebody who is looking to cast a spell, the process of creating that spell, that process in itself is going to basically add energy to that spell. So if you think about what spell casting is, it is a layering, right, of different energies. So you come up with an idea of what it is that you're going to do. So that's one layer of energy. And then you go through and you select, okay, these are the tools I'm going to need. This is all of this. And that's another layer of energy. Then you select your correspondences and your herbs, your crystals, your everything. There's another layer of energy. So all of this is kind of like a little pyramid, right? It starts down here and everything builds and builds and builds until you go to the very top. So it's important when you do spell casting that you use your creativity because it does add a lot to it. Does that mean you should never just open the book and cast a spell? No, but I do recommend that if you're going to cast a spell from a book, personalize it. Look at the ingredients, look at the steps, and then decide what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Sit with that spell for a while, thinking about it before you cast it. Don't just open and boom, go in and cast it, because then at that point, you're really not getting the most out of it. So creativity and visualization are the two tools. Hey, Paula. Yes, I do feel a lot better. Creativity and visualization are really going to be your two number one tools that you are going to be able to use to form that base of your pyramid, that foundation of everything else you're going to layer on top of it. So it starts with that. So don't just, do something without putting too much thought and energy into it. A spell is a sacred process. It's a sacred ceremony that you're doing. So in order for you to get the most out of it, there's another dog right up there. In order for you to get the most out of it, you should probably be able to sit down and really think about it, really brainstorm what you're going to do and why you're going to do it. And you should agonize it over a little bit. There should be some effort that you put in, some type of mental energy in the form of creativity or visualization that you're going to put into your spell in order to create it. And all of that is going to add more power to it. If you open up a book, rip a spell page from there, gather everything, within 20 minutes you cast your spell and you go, and then people come back and say, why did it not work? Or there was not a lot of energy to it? Because the energy in itself is going to come from everything you do to build that spell. A lot of people say, well, the herbs and the crystals have their own energy. Yes, they do. But that's a very small amount of energy compared to what you bring to the table, right? So imagine your willpower, your creativity, your visualization. That is the primary energy that's going to drive your spell. So the others are basically supporting ingredients for your spell, but you bring the power to the table yourself. It's in you and the way that you think about it, the way that you create a spell, the way that you do all of that. When you speak words, your vibration, that is going to add energy to that spell, right? So basically what you're going to do is so if you just open up a book and you have your herbs and your crystals and you read the thing, you cast the spell, you're gone. The only energy in that spell right now that's really abundant and pushing it forward is what the what the crystals have and what the herbs have. It's like maybe 30% of the energy, as opposed to energy that you're going to bring to the table with all that you thought about, created, agonized over. All of those things are going to add another layer of very, very important energy, which eventually is going to push your spell up to the point where basically actually does something that you want it to do. So although I am not saying that you should never use a book, I'm saying that if you're going to use a spell from a book, really go down that spell and look at it. Understand why you're adding each one of those ingredients. Understand why is it important that I add peppermint instead of, let's say, spearmint or, any other mint. Why is it that I'm adding roses instead of chrysanthemums, instead of helichrysum, instead of elderflower or any other flower that could be? And if you look at the way the spell is written and you go, boy, this herb really doesn't feel well for me, then look at it something different. Sit down and say, okay, this is what I've got here. What guides me? What tells me what the last ingredient should be? And if you can't replace all of it to create kind of your own version of the spell, at least pick one or two ingredients from the spell and really think about it. Think about each individual one and see, this resonates, this does not. And if you just look at a spell and you go, I don't know what I'm doing, I have no clue what any of this is, I'm just going to throw it together and hope it works, you're not going to be successful. So if you look at a spell and you go, I'm not sure what I'm doing here, don't cast it. You're better off starting with a smaller spell that's going to be able to house a lot more of your energy. So, everybody can cast a simple candle spell. That's one of the most easiest things for you to cast. And I'm going to make sure that I put on my the Wild Witch website how to cast a simple candle spell, the whole process of how to do it. If it's not there already, I think it may be there, but if it's not, I'm going to put it there. And if it is, I'm just going to link that page to this video once I go ahead and put the video up for you guys to see. So if you're looking at a spell and it's all Greek to you, don't do it. It's not your spell. It's somebody else's spell. It doesn't feel right. When you look at it, you don't feel connected to it. That is why that spell is not yours. And that's one of the reasons why it's not resonating. So if your spell, when you look at it, it should be like, yes, this ingredient, do I want it? Does this belong here? Yes, it does. I felt it. I connected with it. Okay, ingredient comes in. And, and it was funny because when I first started this, my high priestess, when I first joined her coven, I think it was one of the first or second ceremonies we did. I remember I had books because I was a slave to books. That's how I started, because I didn't know what I was doing. And I figured the books are going to help me do it right. So I had books and I would look at all the ingredients and I would look up ingredients to make sure I understood every little component that went into that spell. When I went to her place and oh, hey, Trisha, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm doing a lot better. Yes. And then when we were at her place, what she did, she just opened the cupboard and she's like, we're going to cast this kind of spell. And then she was like, we need this and this and this and this and this. And she just pulled things out of her cupboard. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't wait until the day that I can do that. Am I ever going to be able to do that? And the short answer is yes. And so can you. It's a matter of taking the steps to understand what resonates with you and what doesn't resonate with you. Using an ingredient in your spell just because a book said so is not going to help you with that spell. It's not. Because why a lot of the times if they say, you need balm of Gilead for this, is because they had balm of Gilead growing in their backyard, right? You are in a different place. If you think about where a lot of these spells were written, a lot of them were inherited from, ancient times, different types of families, different types of practices, some folk magic, some ritual magic, some of it coming from old pagan traditions. I mean, it's really a mishmash of all of this. And in ancient times, people did not have access to go. The average person couldn't say, I need some balm of Gilead. It's about 4 countries over. I'm going to go over there and get it. That didn't happen. So what they would do is they would look at the environment around them and they would pull the ingredients from that environment to cast whatever spell they needed. So there was a combination of, there were herbs and things that existed where they were at. So that location of place, that energy of place was already in those herbs and in the spell. So the minute you come into this place and you're tapping in to the crystals and the herbs around you, you're literally tapping nature around you to cast your spell. So what do you got right now? You've got your spell, you've got your energy, you've got your willpower, and then you've got the power of nature, of the land, of everything that's around you, pushing more energy into that work for you to have a good desired result, right? So what happens now, if you decide, if you get a spell and that says Balm of Gilead grows, in the Middle East. So, okay, we're going to go ahead to the store and we're going to buy some, because now we do have access to all of these things. We're going to buy some of this and we're going to put here. And then myrrh also grows over there. We need myrrh as well. We're going to put this here. So if you don't know what these herbs do, if you're just following a list, you don't know the history of the herb, you've never worked with the herb to see how that herb works with you, you've never really done anything with it. If it's just because it's on the list, you're going to put it on your spell's going to flop. So why? Because even though you have that herb, you are not connected to that land. That is not where you live. That herb comes in. It doesn't bring the power of all that's around it. It brings the power of itself. The power of everything that's around it was left in the home country where that herb came from. So now that herb is going to come in and you're going to have a little bit of energy from that herb plus whatever else you put into it. So if you want to start getting more connected to the energy around you, to the elements around you, to the place where you are, go check out and find out what herbs grow near you. Like, perfect example, around my house, plantain is a pest. Plantain is just everywhere. So if I decide I need plantain in a spell and I go outside and I cut a piece of plantain, bring it in, dry it, and use it in my spell, what's going to happen? I have the energy of that herb. I have the energy of my land, of my place. I have the energy of everything that I have, my connection with that herb, to go into it. It's a lot more power than using something that you don't understand or that you're not connected with. So a lot of times, to have successful spell casting, it requires practice. It requires research. It requires personal discovery and personal growth. And guess what? All of those things require creativity. So if you don't have creativity, that is one of the foundational points of beginning your spell casting. So you really need to kind of take a step back and say, if I was going to use the land around me to create a spell, what would I do? Oh, there's an oak tree right there. Let me go sit by that oak and feel that energy and ask that tree if I can have a branch or a leaf or an acorn. Let's see, there's a maple tree over there. I'm going to go sit by that tree. There's periwinkle growing over there. I'm going to go sit over there next to those little flowers and I'm going to connect with it and I'm going to see if I can bring that in. So that's a way that you can start connecting with nature around you and with the herbs that live in your general area before you start using it, right? So like dandelion is a perfect example. Dandelion grows just about everywhere. Connect with a dandelion in your property. And then even if you're not going to use the ones on your property, if you're going to buy them, that you're already connected to that spiritual energy. You're already connected to that dandelion. It's the same thing if you have, let's say you have mint growing. Mint is another one. It's a weed. It's going to grow wherever it can. It's going to take over whatever it can. If you're growing mint in your garden, and let's say you say, okay, well, that's really pretty and I'm using it for cooking and I don't want to use it for spell casting, and you go and you order some mint, you are now connected to the mint and to that mint bush that you have there. Why? Because that's grown natively to you. You forged a connection with that plant when you started growing it, when you started taking care of it. So then when you do get ready to go and cast your spell, that connection and that extra energy is going to be there. The other thing that creativity helps you with, especially if you start looking at arts and crafts, is it allows you to create something. You know, imagine how much energy is there in creating something out of nothing, of birthing something. So whether you're making, let's say you're making a black mirror, let's say you're making a little cup to use in your spell, let's say you're making a talisman with clay that you're going to design and you're going to paint and you're going to do all kinds of stuff. All of that creativity that you're using in creating that tool, creating that item, all of that energy is not lost. It gets transferred into whatever it is that you're wanting to do with it. So creativity is really, I think for me, it's the most important tools. One of the most important tools. Visualization to me is the second most important tool, because I'll tell you what, With those two things, you can create any spell. You don't need herbs. You don't need crystals. You don't need anything else. We love the tools, right? We love the herbs, the crystals, and everything because that's fun. So we always love the fun toys. But in reality, that is not what makes the spell. What makes the spell and the energy behind it is going to come from you, from your ability to create, from your ability to visualize, and all that energy that you have that's locked into your hopes, your dreams, your desires, all of that, all of it funnels into the spell so that you can, have a good spell, have a good ceremony. Does that sound right for everybody? Does anybody have any questions before we move on a little bit? If not, I'll just continue and you guys can go ahead and type your questions. We have a big audience today, so I'm very excited. My first day back to have a big audience. That's pretty darn good. So that is one of the ways that creativity can help you with spell casting. The other way that creativity can help you with is understanding the laws of magic, the laws of the universe. And I tell people all the time, you want to understand how magic works? You want to understand how the universe works? Go watch shows about space. Because what happens is you get to see, if you watch a show that's going to talk about black holes or going to talk about nebulas and galaxies, all of that is energy that's floating in our space. And you get to see what that energy does when it comes into contact with something else. So you may not necessarily understand the energy, but when you look at it on a very massive scale, you begin to understand kind of like the butterfly effect that energy has. Nothing lives by itself. Everything is affected by something else around it, some energy around it. And using your creativity and your ability to understand, your ability to visualize is going to help you to understand that. Once you understand each power that you're working with and how it works and what the rules are involving it, creating your own spell by understanding those energy interactions becomes really, really easy. As I grew in my practice and as you grow in your practice, you're going to notice this, that I went from going from book spell to book spell to book spell to partially modified book spell to finally now I don't use a book. So if I were to read a book about spells, I'll get some ideas, but it won't feel right to me. I'll get an idea and say, that spell is using, let's say, egg noodles as an item. Why are they using egg noodles? What are they trying to do? I read through it. I understand it. I go, oh, this is an idea. So then I create my own version of that spell with I may or may not use egg noodles or whatever else, but then I'm able to create something that is truly mine, that even though the idea of that spell originally wasn't mine, the spell that I create at that point is personalized to such a level that it truly is mine, and it's going to have my power and my energy moving through it. So that is pretty much what I had for you guys today, talking about creativity and spell casting. And the other thing is, people say, oh, I'm not a creative person. We are all creative people. Creativity lives and exists inside each and every one of us. The question is, people a lot of times mistake creativity with finished product. Creativity is about the simple art of creating something. It's in the name. I'm going to create something. I'm going to create something that didn't exist before, that came to being because I thought it. I had an idea and I created it. Even if you decide you're going to create a horse and you're going to paint a beautiful horse and your horse ends up having 5 heads and 7 legs and a tail that's crooked, you still created it. Whether or not the final product looks fantastically beautiful and worthy to be in a museum is irrelevant. It's the fact that you took the time to sit down and work with it and actually create it. That is where the power and the energy is going to come from for you. So don't think that you can't create, because every person can. And it's not about the finished product. It's about the process of creating and the energy it generates. So I hope that was helpful for all of you. Like I said before, we are not going to do a live sale tomorrow because I'm still not back to 100%. But starting next week, we are going to have the Witches In live on Monday, and there will be a sale on Tuesday. And I apologize. I have not put any social media posts out for the last 3 or 4 weeks because I've been in recovery. So I'm going to try to catch up on that this week. and get all of the events scheduled for this month, so that we can kind of get back in our groove. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me, guys. I appreciate you guys being here, and I will see you all next week. All right, take care. Bye-bye.